Nigeria, one of Africa's largest producers of crude oil, relies heavily on this resource for its economic growth. In November 2022, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Zainab Ahmed, announced the phasing out of fuel subsidy. She said fuel subsidy gulped 2.565 trillion naira between January and August of 2022, and that government can no longer sustain it. She explained that exiting subsidy will be a gradual process.
The projected fiscal outcomes in the 2023 budget is based on petroleum subsidy reform ratio, and that is to say, in the 2023 framework, we had assumed and the National Assembly had approved that the petroleum subsidy will remain up to the middle of 2023 based on the 18 months extension announced early in 2022.
Following this announcement, stakeholders and Nigerians have debated on the removal of fuel subsidy and its benefits. Apart from the fact that a lot of Nigerians do not understand the way subsidy operates, their biggest concerns has been on the price a litre of petrol will be sold when subsidy is phased out. A legal practitioner in the FCT, Barrister Dickson Omaiye, advocated for increment in salaries for both the public and private sector. He said by doing that, the Nigerian government will be cushioning the effect of subsidy removal on its citizens.
The government is spending millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars monthly to subsidize. Now, before you remove subsidy, just do the basic thing. Review salaries, both in the public and private sector. If salaries of public and private sector is reviewed upwards in a great deal, very well, it will help ameliorate the hardship. You can't remove subsidy without reviewing salary first, because everything, prices of commodities, transportation, and everything will skyrocket when fuel subsidy is removed. So before they even talk about removing subsidy, they must first settle the issue of salaries of Nigerians so that people can earn well. Imagine fuel price per litre is 400, 500 naira. How much will you fill your tank? How much you will spend to fill your tank?
On the side of some civil servants, they said the issue is not the removal of subsidy, but more on the availability of petroleum products and the quality of government as impartiality.
Removing fuel subsidy, if fuel is to be sold for 500 naira or 700 naira and it's available for people to buy, I don't think anything is wrong with it, because during fuel scarcity, there are a lot of people that are buying fuel at the rate of 1,000 naira per litre, and yet it does not serve, because the government is subsidizing this fuel, and most of those people taking this fuel are diverting it to other countries. And it means Nigeria is subsidizing fuel not just for Nigeria but for people outside Nigeria.
Wherever you find yourself, be it in the ministry, whatever discipline you find yourself, so to say, whatever discipline you find yourself, you need to do the right thing. What are those right things? Doing things that whatever you are doing, you believe that I am doing this thing as it is demanded by the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Giving more insights into fuel subsidy policy, the immediate past Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda Yusuf, explained that the present landing cost of petrol is about 300 to 400 naira, but it's being sold at 184 naira to 200 naira, which means government pays the difference between the selling price and the cost price, and that's what is referred to as fuel subsidy.
Well, fuel subsidy simply means that the government, in conjunction with the oil marketers, are selling petrol at a price that is less than the cost price. Currently, for instance, the landing cost of PMS, which is petrol, is anywhere between 300 to 400 naira per liter. And the policy of government is to sell it at between 184 to 200. So that simply means that the price at which the petrol is being sold at the pump is far less than the cost of delivery of the product at the pump. So the difference between the selling price and the cost price is the subsidy that the government is providing. So in a layman's terms, that is what it means. It means that the government is selling the products at a price that is far less than the cost of the product.
He said Nigerians stand to gain immensely from the removal of subsidy, as the funds can be used for economic development.
But when we compare the pains to the benefits of the withdrawal, my position is that whatever pains it is, I think first, it will be short-lived. Second, the benefits of it will far outweigh, the demerits or whatever pains that will incur. Imagine, for instance, a post-subsidy scenario where the government is able to make a savings of between 6 to 7 trillion naira. That's a whole lot of savings. And these savings that will be translated into better funding of our federation accounts. All the three tiers of government share or get allocation from this federation accounts. That will position the government, all the three tiers of government, the federal, the states, and the local government, to have more money, to be able to provide better facilities for their citizens, to be able to pay salaries, because as we speak, many of these state governments cannot even pay salaries regularly. Many of them cannot even pay pensions. Many of them cannot even pay the meager 30,000 naira minimum wage, monthly, all because they don't have the funds. And not all of them have the capacity to generate funds internally, what we call Hajia. Some of them depend almost entirely on federal allocation. So if you have more funding to the federal allocation or to the FAC account, it will benefit all these tiers of government. They'll be able to pay salaries regularly, they'll be able to pay pensioners, and they'll be able to provide a lot more facilities, like education, like health, like good roads, and so on and so forth, which will benefit everybody, including members of the labor unions. So we should look beyond the short-term pain and have, a much longer-term view or perspective of this issue. Apart from the funding, there are also opportunities that it will bring for investment. With the withdrawal of subsidy, we will see a lot more investment in our oil and gas sector. As I speak to you, many credible big investors have divested from our oil and gas sector in the upstream. Many of the oil majors have left. Now we have a situation where many other oil producing countries are making a lot of money because of the high oil price, because they have investors who can generate a lot of output. But here we are in Nigeria, we are not able to even meet our OPEC quota. So we need a lot more investment in the oil and gas sector. And the only way to make that happen is to get this subsidy out of the way.
Ahead of the planned subsidy removal, in June, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Ahmed, revealed that the federal government has secured an $800 million grant from the World Bank. She said it's targeted at 50 million vulnerable Nigerians, or 10 million households, as part of its subsidy palliative measures.
So when we're working on the 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Appropriation Act, we made that provision to enable us exit fuel subsidy by June 2023. We're on course. We're having different stakeholder engagements. We've secured some funding from the World Bank. That is the first tranche of palliatives that will enable us give cash transfers to the most vulnerable in our society that have now been registered in a national social register. Today, that register has a list of 10 million households. 10 million households is equivalent to about 50 million Nigerians. But we also have to raise more resources to enable us do more than just the cash transfers, and also in our engagements with the various stakeholders, the various kind of asks that we have go beyond the requirement of just giving cash transfers. Labour, for example, might be looking for mass transit for its members. So there are several things that we're still planning and working on. Some we can start executing quickly, some are more medium-term implementation.
Speaking on the above, Dr. Yusuf explained that palliatives don't have to be in cash form. He said there are several policy options on palliatives that can be adopted.
No, the palliatives will be there are some that are medium term, there are some that are long term. First of all, the whole subsidy removal thing has to be in phases. You cannot afford to remove the entire subsidy at once. It's something that you can face over the next 1 year, for instance. So that you are taking out maybe 25% per quarter. That is one. Secondly, the palliatives should not be limited only to handouts. Because your concept or the concept of many people about palliatives is about giving handouts. It has to go beyond that. This is a very big concept. We have 200 million population, 133 million people are in poverty. So how many people can you give handouts to? So we have to look at policy options. And there's a whole range of policy options that are suitable. First, look at reduce, the demand for PMS. To reduce demand for, we should encourage more people to convert their vehicles. That is what we call auto gas. For cars, they can convert. Big trucks that are using diesel, they can also convert. For those who are using big generators, they can also convert to the use of gas. That's what we call CNG, compressed natural gas. So what government needs to do in that situation is to subsidize all the equipment that you need for that kind of conversion. The conversion is one-off. So we should make it easy, just the way we try to make it easy for people to be using cooking gas rather than kerosene or firewood. So we can promote that kind of conversion. Secondly, also use policies to encourage more investment, even in refineries, in pipelines, and in all other segments of the petroleum downstreams. You can support them with incentives like fiscal incentives.
Fuel subsidy was introduced in the year 2000 by then President Olusegun Obasanjo as a form of government intervention to reduce the cost of fuel by providing direct financial support to all companies and such subsidize the price of the product to consumers. That is to say, fuel subsidy is government paying the difference between pump price and the actual cost of importing the product. Due to fuel subsidy, the amount Nigerians pay for petroleum products is lower than the international benchmark. Joycelyn Elakeche Ada for Energy and Environment Weekly.